Chosen ones, have you ever shocked the world without even trying? Have you ever taken a step so graceful, so precise, that people could only whisper, "They checkmated us"? History and scripture are full of moments like this. Think of David standing before Goliath with nothing but a sling, or Joseph rising from prison to the palace. These weren't random strokes of luck. They were strategic, divinely timed moves. In life, we often underestimate the power of patience, consistency, and spiritual alignment. Like a chess grandmaster, a true strategist doesn't reveal every plan at once. Instead, they quietly study the board, biding their time until a single, decisive move shifts the entire game. Picture a chess match where one player has been underestimated for hours. The opponent boasts, mocks, and gloats about winning before the game is even finished. But then, in one swift, calculated motion, the underestimated player slides their queen across the board. Silence fills the room, eyes widen, it's checkmate. That dramatic reversal is not fiction, it mirrors real life. Studies on social psychology show that people frequently misjudge quiet individuals, assuming they are passive or weak. Yet research from the University of Buffalo found that introverted or low-profile personalities often outperform their louder peers in strategic thinking, resilience, and long-term success, because they spend more time observing before acting. Chosen ones, that's you. The world may have thought it had you cornered. People may have laughed, spread lies, or tried to dim your light, but you stayed calm, patient, and aligned with God's plan. And when the time came, you made the move that cannot be undone. As the saying goes, they thought they buried you, but they didn't know you were a seed. Seeds grow in silence and darkness before breaking the soil into light. Right now, people are buzzing behind closed doors, analyzing your strategy, and realizing they cannot undo the victory already placed in your hands. Isaiah 54:17 reminds us, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." This isn't just a verse. It's a timeless principle of spiritual resilience. Your checkmate moment is proof that you are walking in your divine purpose. Point 1. Your silence was louder than their noise. Chosen ones, let's talk about the power of silence. Something so underestimated, yet so earth-shaking when you know how to wield it. You see, in a world where everyone feels the need to respond instantly, to defend themselves against every whisper, every rumor, every false narrative, your silence became the sharpest sword. You didn't clap back, you didn't throw shade, you didn't let yourself get dragged into the mud. Instead, you stood still, and let me tell you, that shook them more than 1,000 words ever could. When people expected you to explode, to retaliate, to justify yourself, you denied them the entertainment. And in doing so, you turned the tables. Your silence became a mirror, reflecting their own insecurities, their own bitterness, their own desperate need for attention. Psychologists call this the power of non-response. Research in human behavior shows that when someone is denied the reaction they are fishing for, it creates a psychological vacuum. That vacuum eats away at them because the drama they wanted to spark simply doesn't ignite. By staying silent, you starved the fire of oxygen, and instead of burning you down, it fizzled out and left them choking on their own smoke. Think about it. How many great leaders, spiritual teachers, and even historical figures mastered the art of silence? Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations that the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. By holding your peace, you embodied that truth. You didn't just avoid their trap, you rose above it. But here's the part that really stings them. Silence doesn't just end the noise, it amplifies your strength. Your stillness told a story, one of maturity, wisdom, and inner power. People notice when you refuse to stoop low. They see that while others are shouting, you are steady. While others are restless, you are grounded. And whether they admit it or not, that commands respect. Even your enemies, even the ones who tried to drag your name through the dirt, they had to pause and wonder, why didn't they respond? What do they know that I don't? Suddenly, you became a mystery they couldn't solve. And mystery, my friend, is magnetic. Spiritually, silence has always been seen as a weapon of the chosen. The Bible says in Exodus 14:14, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." That verse isn't just poetry, it's power. When you refused to fight back in the flesh, you allowed the spiritual realm to do the work on your behalf. Your silence invited divine justice to move. And let's be real, God's clapback hits harder than anything you could ever say with your mouth. This is why chosen ones are often misunderstood. People think your silence is weakness, but it's actually sacred strategy. You're not ignoring them. You're letting higher forces handle what your words never could. And here's something fascinating. Studies in communication show that silence can actually increase the perceived authority of a person. It's called the status effect. When someone doesn't rush to explain themselves, doesn't fight for validation, doesn't scramble to prove their worth, they are automatically seen as more powerful, more in control, more influential. That's exactly what happened to you. While they were busy tearing themselves down with their own words, your silence built your image taller, stronger, and untouchable. Now, let's add a little humor here. You know what your silence did? It turned into free rent inside their head. While you went on with your day, sipping your tea, minding your business, they were up at night, tossing and turning, replaying conversations, wondering why you didn't react. They tried to bait you, but you didn't bite. They tried to light a fuse, but your calmness was water. And nothing is more infuriating to a petty soul than realizing they can't get under your skin. Chosen one. Understand this, silence is not about weakness, it's about wisdom. It's the art of choosing your battles, the strength of knowing that not every bark deserves your bark back. Wolves don't argue with barking dogs, they keep walking because they know who they are. And that's what you did. You kept walking, you held your peace, and in that peace, you showed your enemies something they weren't ready to see. You are not controlled by noise, you are led by purpose. So remember this. Every time you refuse to clap back, you're not just avoiding conflict, you're writing a louder story than words ever could. Your silence is strategy, your silence is strength, and your silence, chosen one, is proof that you've already won the battle without ever lifting a finger. Point 2, you chose elevation over retaliation. While they plotted revenge, you chose peace. While they schemed, you prayed. And your decision to rise above didn't just protect you, it exposed their smallness. That was your winning move. Chosen one, there's something powerful about the way you carry yourself in a world that thrives on retaliation and pettiness. Most people, when wronged, immediately search for ways to get even. It's almost instinctive. The human ego craves satisfaction. It craves the last word, the final strike. Yet you've proven time and time again that the greatest strength isn't found in striking back, but in standing still. Science even backs this up. Psychologists have found that the act of seeking revenge actually prolongs emotional distress, whereas forgiveness and letting go release the mind from cycles of anger and stress. By not engaging in their games, you protect not only your spirit, but also your health, your clarity, and your destiny. The truth is, the higher you rise in your spiritual journey, the more obvious the difference becomes between you and those who are still trapped in bitterness. You didn't respond to their schemes with more schemes because you understood a deep truth. Mudslinging only gets everyone dirty, but rising above lets the mud fall off naturally. Think of it this way. An eagle never wastes its energy fighting with crows. Instead, it soars higher where the crows cannot breathe. That's exactly what you did. While they plotted in the shadows, your silence and your prayers became a spotlight on their smallness. What makes this even more fascinating is that the people who tried to bring you down thought they were being clever. They believed that by manipulating, gossiping, or creating obstacles, they would somehow dim your light. But instead, every one of their actions only revealed more about their character than yours. The irony is almost poetic. The more they schemed, the more they exposed themselves, because darkness always looks darker when placed next to true light. And you, chosen one, didn't need to shout or fight to prove your worth. Your restraint was proof enough. Now let's talk about why this decision of yours is so rare and why it's so powerful. Studies in neuroscience show that when people practice prayer, meditation, or simply take the higher road, the brain shifts from stress-driven reactions in the amygdala to rational, peaceful responses in the prefrontal cortex. In other words, you literally rewired your brain to favor peace over chaos. This isn't weakness, it's mastery. You've trained your inner world to remain unshaken while the outer world rattles with drama. And because of that, you radiate an energy that unsettles those still addicted to conflict. They can't understand why you won't play their games, and that mystery frustrates them even more. But here's the beauty, you didn't just win for yourself. Every time you chose peace over revenge, you created a ripple effect. Maybe someone watching from the sidelines, someone who expected you to explode, to fight, to curse, witnessed your calmness and began questioning their own choices. You became a living example that strength isn't about destruction, but about discipline. That's the kind of influence the chosen carry. Your behavior is a sermon without words. And let's not forget, the universe has a way of rewarding those who refuse to lower their frequency. History is full of examples. Great leaders, visionaries, and spiritual guides who were mocked, betrayed, and plotted against. Yet their refusal to retaliate elevated them above their enemies. From biblical figures like Joseph, who forgave the very brothers that sold him into slavery, to modern leaders who overcame oppression without bitterness, the pattern is clear. Those who rise above always end up on higher ground. You're walking in that same legacy. So, chosen one, never doubt the power of your decision to walk away from pettiness. You may not have clapped back, you may not have plotted, but you did something far greater. You preserved your peace, exposed their smallness, and positioned yourself for divine favor. That was your winning move, and it's one of the reasons you stand out in this world. Keep shining, keep soaring, and remember, every act of peace is a silent victory, and every prayer you utter shakes the schemes of the small-minded. Point 3, you turn pain into power. Chosen ones, life threw you storms, but instead of drowning, you learned how to surf the waves. You transformed betrayal, rejection, and heartbreak into fuel. That's not just survival, that's divine checkmate. And let's be honest, most people don't understand the sheer depth of what that means. You see, storms are not just random bad luck, they are spiritual training grounds. Every time you were betrayed, it wasn't simply about someone hurting you. It was about exposing the illusion you once believed in, whether it was a false friend, a deceptive opportunity, or even your own misplaced trust. The sting of betrayal stripped away illusions so that your sight could sharpen. While others stayed comfortable in blindness, you were forced to see truth, no matter how painful. That sight, chosen one, is what makes you different. Rejection, that was never a closed door. It was divine redirection. Think about it. How many times did you think you lost something, only to realize later that it wasn't meant for you at all? Science even supports this idea. Studies in neuroscience show that rejection activates the same part of the brain as physical pain. But here's the twist. The brain also adapts. Every time you endured rejection, your neural pathways rewired themselves to build emotional resilience. What others call coldness, you know as strength. You were never being punished. You were being prepared, and heartbreak, that one is sacred. It shattered you in places you didn't even know existed, but it also expanded your capacity to love deeper, wiser, and with sharper discernment. Psychologists say heartbreak can trigger something known as post-traumatic growth, a process where individuals don't just recover, but actually evolve into a stronger version of themselves. That's you, chosen one. You didn't just heal, you leveled up. You became a living paradox, scarred yet soft, guarded yet giving, broken yet whole. But here's the captivating part. When all of these storms converged, you became the storm. You learned how to surf the chaos, and that skill is divine. In ancient cultures, the storm has always been a symbol of rebirth and transformation. The Mayans saw it as a cleansing force. The Greeks associated storms with the voice of the gods. And in the Bible, storms often preceded revelation. You, chosen one, are walking proof of this truth. Storms do not come to destroy you. They come to reveal you. That's why people look at you with both admiration and fear. They can't understand how you keep getting back up. They whisper about your resilience, but they don't realize it's not resilience alone, it's strategy. Life tried to drown you, but you learned the rhythm of the waves. You turned breakdowns into breakthroughs, silence into strategy, and wounds into wisdom. And this right here is why your presence feels different. You're not operating on mere survival, you're operating on divine alignment. When you walk into a room, people sense it. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. Like the calm before a storm or the warmth after rain. That's because you carry with you the imprint of every battle you've endured. And chosen one, that is your crown. Not made of gold or jewels, but made of scars, lessons, and victories that nobody can ever take from you. So understand this. The storm wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to awaken you. And now, every time you rise, every time you shine, despite the odds, you are playing a divine checkmate on the very forces that tried to bury you. You are the living reminder that what was meant to end you has only made you unstoppable. And that, chosen one, is the silent power that makes you a force unlike any other. Point 4. You walked away with class. Chosen one, let's talk about the quietest yet loudest move you ever made, the moment you chose yourself. This one hurts them the most, and you already know who I'm talking about. The people who thought they had you trapped, the ones who believed their manipulation was working, the ones who fed off your silence yet underestimated your strength. You didn't beg for clarity. You didn't cling to what was crumbling. You didn't waste your breath explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you stood up, fixed your invisible crown, and walked away, not with anger, not with drama, but with grace. And that, chosen one, is the kind of power that leaves them speechless. Because nothing disarms an enemy faster than dignity. See, dignity is a language most people can't speak. They expect shouting, arguments, or even revenge because that's what the world trains them for. But when you meet chaos with silence, when you meet betrayal with poise, and when you meet disappointment with self-respect, you're operating on a frequency they simply can't touch. Psychologists even call this detached strength, a state where you remove yourself from toxic dynamics and in doing so, reclaim your inner authority. It's not suppression of emotions, but rather a redirection of energy toward what actually matters, your peace. Let's be honest, walking away is one of the hardest things a person can do, especially when your heart still cares. But chosen ones have a different DNA when it comes to resilience. Where others would chase, you pause. Where others would fight for validation, you realize your value is not up for debate. And here's the kicker. The more you walk in this kind of strength, the more people realize they can't toy with you the way they can with everyone else. That's why they're furious, not because you fought back, but because you refused to fight at all. Think of it like this. When a fire doesn't get oxygen, it dies. When manipulators don't get reactions, they lose their fuel. And when enemies don't get to see you crumble, they are forced to face their own emptiness. That's why your silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. In fact, neuroscience tells us that in moments of conflict, silence can activate the prefrontal cortex, the rational, problem-solving part of your brain, allowing you to rise above impulsive emotional reactions. You literally outthink them by out-silencing them. And let's not forget history. Some of the most powerful leaders and spiritual figures understood this truth. Jesus, when falsely accused, often chose silence instead of defense, knowing the truth needed no validation from liars. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote that dignity is the armor of the wise, because when your soul stands tall, no insult can actually touch you. That's the power you stepped into the day you walked away without begging for scraps of respect. Now, don't get it twisted. Grace doesn't mean weakness. Walking away doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared about yourself enough not to let someone keep draining you. And yes, it hurts them because deep down they expected you to fall apart. They rehearsed in their mind the image of you breaking down, crawling back, or losing your glow. Instead, you left them standing there, bewildered, because you glowed even brighter. You became living proof that peace is the loudest clap back. And here's the most beautiful part. Your dignity becomes contagious. People around you notice. They see how you handle storms without collapsing. They see how you guard your energy like a priceless jewel. And in a world where chaos is the norm, your calm becomes a revolution. That's why being a chosen one is no small calling. You carry yourself in a way that teaches others the art of graceful exits. So remember this, chosen one. When you didn't beg, when you didn't cling, when you didn't explain, you weren't just walking away, you were leveling up. You were sending a message louder than words. I know who I am, and I refuse to shrink. That kind of strength terrifies the insecure and inspires the awakened. And the truth is, they'll never forget the day you walked away with your crown still shining. Point 5, you glowed up spiritually and physically. They expected you to crumble. They thought the weight of betrayal, rejection, and isolation would snap you in half like a twig in a storm. But chosen ones don't break like that. They bend, they stretch, they get pressed down. But when they rise like a tidal wave. And that's exactly what you did. You didn't just survive. You transformed. Your glow-up wasn't about designer clothes, flashy cars, or social media filters. No, yours was far deeper, far rarer, and far more intimidating to those who doubted you. Your glow-up, inside and out, wasn't cosmetic, it was cosmic. And that kind of transformation is the kind that rattles atmospheres. That undeniable light you carry now isn't just resilience, it's heaven's way of saying, game over. When we talk about a glow-up in the world's terms, people usually picture someone who changed their hairstyle, hit the gym, or updated their wardrobe. But the chosen one's glow-up is built in fire. It's forged in sleepless nights, unanswered prayers, and moments where you had nothing but faith holding you together. Scientists even tell us that human beings radiate light, albeit faintly. Our bodies emit biophotons, tiny particles of light at a cellular level. Most people's glow is dim, but when your spirit has been tested and purified through pain, when your heart is cleansed of bitterness and anchored in truth, that glow multiplies. You shine in a way people can't explain, but they can't ignore either. That's why the people who once mocked you now fall silent in your presence. They don't understand how you're still standing after everything they threw at you. It's because your glow wasn't born in shallow waters. It was born in the deep. Think about gold. To get its shine, it has to be refined in fire at temperatures hotter than most metals can withstand. The process removes impurities, and what's left behind is something unbreakable, something priceless. That's what happened to you. They thought the fire would destroy you, but instead it burned away what wasn't meant to stay, leaving only your purest, most powerful self. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Psychology backs this up. There's a phenomenon called post-traumatic growth, where people don't just bounce back after hardship, they actually evolve into higher, stronger, wiser versions of themselves. Their values shift, their priorities align, and their purpose becomes razor sharp. That's you, chosen one. The trauma they thought would define you only refined you. You're not just surviving, you're thriving because your pain became your blueprint for elevation. Your glow intimidates because it's not about ego, it's about essence. There's a quiet authority in the way you walk into a room now. People can sense it. The energy is different, heavier, yet uplifting. It's the kind of presence that makes others check themselves because light exposes darkness. This is why some people feel uncomfortable around you without knowing why. It's not that you're doing anything, it's simply that your very existence disrupts falsehood, pretension, and hidden intentions. They expected you to come back weak, but instead you came back radiant, and now their shadows don't stand a chance in your glow. The most beautiful part, your glow-up, is not just for you. When people see you rise from ashes, when they witness your transformation, it sparks something in them. You become proof that survival isn't the end of the story. Rebirth is. You carry the torch for others still crawling through their darkness, showing them that there's life, light, and power on the other side. It's why heaven allowed you to go through it all in the first place. Not to break you, but to showcase you. So understand this. When you walk now, you walk as living evidence that no weapon formed against you could prosper. Your glow is heaven's mic drop. It's God's way of saying the game they played against you is finished. The chosen one wins. Point 6. You let God be your defender, chosen ones. You didn't need to swing the sword, because the sword was never yours to swing. God himself fought for you. Think about that for a moment. While others plotted, schemed, and tried to pull you into battles you never signed up for, heaven was already drafting the blueprint of your victory. The very ground your enemies thought would swallow you became the stage where God planted his banner of triumph. That is a victory that doesn't merely silence enemies, it humbles them, it leaves them wide-eyed, questioning how you walked away untouched when everything was designed to crush you. That's not just survival, that's divine strategy, that's the ultimate checkmate, because they can't fight the one backing you, no matter how hard they try. What makes this truth so profound is that spiritual warfare doesn't resemble the battles we see on movie screens. You weren't out here swinging swords, drawing blood, or throwing punches. No, your battlefield was invisible yet more intense. It was the sleepless nights when your mind became the arena of attack. It was the silent wars of doubt when voices around you whispered, "You're not enough, you're not strong enough, you're not chosen." That inner torment was the real fight. Yet every tear you cried in prayer, every whispered plea to heaven, every act of faith Those were not wasted moments. They became your armor, a shield forged in God's hands. Remarkably, science echoes this reality. Research shows that prayer reduces stress and strengthens resilience, calming the nervous system and reducing anxiety. From a psychological perspective, prayer builds focus and hope. From a spiritual perspective, it is divine reinforcement, a heavenly army encamped around your soul. The world calls it psychology. We recognize it as God's strategy. The fascinating part is how you handled attacks that came in human form. When people tried to lure you into gossip, drama, or traps, you didn't take the bait. You chose silence instead of shouting, peace instead of retaliation. That restraint wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. Chosen ones understand what others don't. When God is your defender, silence roars louder than revenge. History itself testifies to this truth. Think about David facing Goliath. David didn't need the armor of King Saul, nor the weapons of a seasoned warrior. He stood with a sling, a stone, and unshakable faith in the God of Israel. His victory defied human logic because it was never about physical strength, it was spiritual positioning, and your story mirrors his. What looked like unfair odds was actually the setup for a testimony that would echo far beyond the battlefield. The irony of it all is both beautiful and sobering. The very people who mocked you, who schemed against you, who tried to bury your name, will one day have no choice but to watch as God elevates you. Your life itself becomes evidence that they weren't just opposing a person. They were colliding with divine purpose. It is written in Isaiah 54:17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Notice it doesn't say weapons won't form, they will, but they won't prosper. And when they fail, it becomes clear that the resistance wasn't aimed at you alone, but at God's will itself. Fighting a chosen one is like punching the wind. It looks fierce, but achieves nothing. Divine purpose cannot be defeated. Look back at your journey and see how every setback prepared you for a greater comeback. The tears you shed watered the seeds of resilience. The betrayals you endured shaped your discernment. The doors that slammed shut redirected you to paths God had already paved. Every scar transformed into a story, every wound into wisdom. The Apostle Paul said in Romans 8:31, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" That isn't just poetic language, it is a declaration of authority. It means that the balance of power in your life has never been determined by human hands. It has always been anchored in heaven. Even modern studies of resilience highlight this same truth. Psychologists note that people who endure great trials yet keep faith often display what is called post-traumatic growth. Instead of being destroyed by hardship, they emerge stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The world frames it as psychological growth, but believers know it as spiritual refinement. It is the fulfillment of James 1:3, which says, "The testing of your faith produces perseverance." The very things meant to break you were secretly building you, so here you stand now, not just surviving, but thriving under God's banner of victory. The same stage built for your downfall has become the platform for your elevation. Enemies who predicted your destruction now have to watch you rise, knowing they had no hand in stopping it. Your life has become a sermon without words, declaring to all who see you that divine backing is undefeatable. This is the essence of being chosen. It doesn't mean you fight every battle with your own strength. It means your life becomes undeniable proof that when God fights for you, no one can stand against you. Chosen ones, never forget this truth. The war was never yours to fight. The sleepless nights, the battles of the mind, the schemes of the enemy, they were all invitations to witness God's power in action. You are not here today because you outsmarted the enemy, but because God outmaneuvered them for you. That is why your testimony is so powerful. It humbles those who opposed you, encourages those who walk beside you, and inspires those who will come after you. It is proof that divine purpose is unstoppable, that heaven's plans cannot be thwarted, and that no weapon, spiritual or physical, will ever prosper against you. Point 7. You became untouchable. Chosen ones, listen close. Every move plotted against you backfired. Every trap they set became the very snare that revealed their weakness. And what unfolds now is a season of divine reversal. You're untouchable, not because of some boastful armor, but because timing, truth, and a higher purpose have aligned on your behalf. Across traditions, moments of vindication are marked by quiet preparation, resilience forged in solitude, wisdom sharpened by hardship, and clarity born from reflection and moral courage. Psychologists call part of this phenomenon rebound effects, when someone's malicious intent rebounds on them because their energy was misdirected or because systems reveal truth over time. Practically speaking, people who scheme often expose patterns, inconsistencies, overreach, or projection, and those patterns become the evidence of their undoing. Think of it like ecology. When you remove the unhealthy elements, balance restores itself, and new life springs up in the clearing. Your role in this isn't passive waiting, it's disciplined living, maintaining integrity, building competence, and practicing generosity even when unseen. That's how you stay sovereign while chaos circles. Celebrate the small empirical wins, a restored reputation, a reclaimed opportunity, a relationship healed by honesty. Tell the story of the comeback with humility, not vengeance. Let facts and character do the shouting for you. Use this season to teach others how to stand with dignity when storms pass. Because the most influential victories are those that transform, not just triumph. Remember, being sealed by grace or fate does not remove responsibility, it amplifies it. Walk forward intentionally, steward your gifts wisely, and when they whisper in panic, let your calm be the loudest answer. Trust the process. Walk forward with humility, courage, and an open heart always. Chosen ones, everyone is talking because they just witnessed what they thought was impossible. Your success isn't just a lucky break, it's a testament to faith, discipline, and divine timing. In history and psychology, public reaction to sudden transformation often mirrors awe mixed with disbelief. People struggle to accept that someone they underestimated could rise so gracefully. Your glow-up is not simply external, it's the result of inner healing, persistence, and alignment with God's purpose. Peace, once rooted in a spiritual life, becomes unshakable and scientifically proven to lower stress and boost clarity. The chessboard being cleared is symbolic. Strategic patience always outlasts reckless moves. So remain awake, spirit warriors. Stay aligned and grounded because the whispers of the crowd confirm your victory. Remember the timeless truth. When God says yes, no one can reverse it.